What if I told you that there's a single sentence you can say that will instantly make a narcissist stop in their tracks? A sentence so powerful, so disarming, that it not only halts their manipulation, but forces them to see you in a completely different light. I know that might sound unbelievable, but by the end of this video, you'll understand the psychology behind it, and you'll know exactly how and when to use it. But before we get there, I need to ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you were erased, as if your thoughts didn't matter? Your emotions were ignored, and your very presence was dismissed. Maybe someone talked over you, rolled their eyes, or invalidated your reality with a smug comment or a cold stare. And maybe, just maybe, you reacted in one of the two ways most of us do. You either exploded in frustration or retreated into silence. Here's the hard truth. Both of those reactions are exactly what the narcissist wants. Carl Jung, one of the founding fathers of modern psychology, uncovered something so profound about this dynamic that it changes the way we view every interaction. He said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Now pause on that for a second, because this quote isn't about blaming ourselves, it's about empowering ourselves. Jung saw narcissists not just as arrogant or cruel, but as deeply wounded individuals operating from their shadow selves, the disowned, denied parts of their psyche. And once you understand this, everything changes. The narcissist isn't trying to destroy you. They're trying to control you. Let me say that again. Their goal isn't destruction, it's domination. And when you know how to interrupt that pattern, you take back your power in ways that transform your relationships, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. Let's go deeper. According to Jung, narcissists are trapped in what he called the shadow self. This is the hidden side of a person filled with everything they refuse to accept about themselves: feelings of inadequacy, fear, shame, insecurity. Instead of facing those emotions, they project them outward. And guess what? You become the target. But here's the kicker: the moment you react emotionally, whether with anger, tears, or defensiveness, you're giving them exactly what they need to feel in control. You become a mirror for their internal chaos, and the interaction feeds their distorted sense of self. What does that mean for you? It means that the most powerful thing you can do is disrupt that pattern. Not with more emotion, not with retaliation, but with calm, clear finality. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And that brings us to the sentence that changes everything. Starting today, I'm done having these kinds of conversations with you. Now, don't underestimate its simplicity. This phrase is a psychological game changer. It's not just a sentence, it's a declaration. But before we break down why it works, let's talk about how most people fail to set boundaries effectively. See, many of us think that asserting ourselves means matching the narcissist's energy, yelling, defending, explaining. But all that does is escalate the drama and reinforce their control. They want you emotionally entangled. They want your reactions. That's their foe. Carl Jung taught that every behavior, no matter how destructive, serves a psychological function. Narcissists behave this way to regulate their fragile emotional state. They need to create confusion, drama, and disempowerment around them because chaos gives them a sense of control. They don't feel safe unless someone else is off balance. So when you calmly say, "I'm done having these kinds of conversations with you," and you mean it, you're removing the game board entirely. And here's what happens next, according to Jung's theory. The narcissist spawn experiences what's called the collapse of the false self. It's the moment when their usual tactics fail. And let me warn you, it might get worse before it gets better. They may lash out, accuse you of being cold, selfish, or heartless. They might try guilt, shame, or manipulation to pull you back into the old pattern. That's because their unconscious mind is scrambling to restore the dynamic where they were in control. But when you don't budge, when you repeat the phrase with calm conviction, something miraculous happens. You stop being their emotional playground. Jung called this process individuation, the act of becoming your true authentic self by integrating all parts of your psyche and refusing to play roles that diminish your soul. That's what you're doing when you speak those words from a place of finality, not anger, not fear, but peace. You're embodying what Jung called psychological sovereignty. Let's break down the 3 reasons why this sentence works so powerfully. 1. It creates finality. You're not negotiating. You're not asking for better treatment. You're declaring your limit. That boundary isn't open for discussion. 2. It removes the narcissist's power source. They rely on your emotional engagement, positive or negative. When you step away, they lose their fix. 3. It demonstrates sovereign selfhood. You're choosing not to participate in dysfunction. You're no longer defining your self-worth through anyone else's validation. But here's the key most people miss. You must embody the energy behind the words. If you say it but feel fear, uncertainty, or doubt, the narcissist will sense that incongruence and continue their behavior. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through energy, so if your energy says, "I'm still afraid," then the dynamic hasn't truly shifted. This isn't about faking confidence, it's about reaching genuine completion. It's the moment when you no longer seek to explain yourself, prove yourself, or be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. And what happens then? The narcissist is forced to confront themselves. Without your emotional reactions to feed on their patterns begin to crumble. Some will try harder to pull you back. Others may begin to shift, at least temporarily, and some will simply vanish from your life altogether. All of these outcomes are victories. But the real transformation isn't in how they change. It's in how you change. You become the person who no longer tolerates conversations that drain your soul. You shed the compliant self, the one who thought they had to endure toxicity to earn love, to keep the peace, to avoid being abandoned. Maybe you grew up believing that harmony was more important than your own peace. Maybe you were taught that love meant accepting poor treatment. But Jung would say this: we unconsciously recreate the patterns we know, even the painful ones, until we wake up. So here's your awakening. First, recognize that narcissists need your emotional engagement to survive. Without it, their illusion of control begins to fade. Second, understand that every time you argue, explain, or justify, you're feeding the pattern. Third, reclaim your power by declaring your finality. Say it with clarity. Say it from completion. Say it like you mean it. Starting today, I'm done having these kinds of conversations with you. Not because you want to punish, not because you want to manipulate, but because you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, integrity over approval. And here's the most important insight Jung would want you to remember. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let that sink in. Because once you see the pattern, once you understand the game, you can stop playing. You stop defending your boundaries to people who were never going to respect them. You stop explaining your worth to those determined to diminish it. You stop chasing love from people who only love control. This isn't just about silencing narcissists. It's about awakening your true self, the self that no longer tolerates emotional erosion in any form. When you operate from this space, narcissists don't just stop disrespecting you, they often disappear entirely. You no longer feed them, so they no longer follow you. And what remains? Peace, clarity, freedom. So let me leave you with this. Every time you speak that sentence with conviction, you are not just drawing a line in the sand, you are writing a new story. One where your voice matters, one where your emotions are valid, one where your presence is not just seen but honored. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. If you found this valuable, if this resonated in your heart or gave you clarity in a place you've been struggling, please subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear these words. And always remember, your peace is not up for negotiation. Not now, not ever.